Hey there, this is K4A Knowledge for All educational videos and tutorials. In this video today we are going to learn how to edit enemy waves in Towers vs Monsters GameMaker official tower defense template. So recently in previous video I was talking about community tab and how I'm going to use it more and more in future, and how I expect for at least some of you to use it also, and that way provide feedback and information on what do you need next or where do you fail in tutorials I provide, but also in general if you need some kind of help or ideas, not only from me but this community and YouTube in general. And as you can see, the first topic here is how to edit enemy waves, so that's what we are going to check today. And the whole idea about that was started by actually trying to make a video about how to add new enemy, which was asked by a guy in comments on some of these videos about this template and tutorials on it. But although I have thought about making that video for a long time and I didn't just have time or strength, recently when I checked out again some ideas and about this tower defense template, I was thinking that it would be much better to start with existing enemy waves and how to edit existing enemies more, and then further advance to how to add new enemies and so on. And as I said in previous video, although some of those topics could and problems could be resolved very fast, in terms of I could just tell you click here, click there, and it will work sooner or later. And I think very soon you will hit the wall with any other next problem which you will face soon after this one, and that will break your game and your learning curve and your knowledge advancement. So that we have to go step by step, and there are lots of things to cover which will benefit you long term, not only to this template, and also I will give you ideas on how to check some, again, very general topics and mechanics, and then decides does this works for me at all, or should I just leave this behind and start something on my own to try to make it just simpler and more effective. Okay, so this was intro, and now let's go to GameMaker template and start actually this tutorial video. I have divided this tutorial video in, I think, 4 sections, 4 steps. And yeah, before starting, the whole idea here again is that we will edit enemy waves on this template too, and we will show how to change number of enemies. So for example, we can push more zombies or less, and that is very realistic. For example, for lower levels, like I need for the first level less zombies, and also we will learn how to change type of the zombies. So again, for lower levels I will need zombies which are weaker, like this thin guy, and for next levels as a boss I will need this fat guy, Frankenstein. And the third thing which we will learn, I think, also how to change spawn time. So the number of enemies, the type of enemies, and spawn type between enemies. In this tutorial before, we have learned how to change enemy health and speed. So we have learned how zombies can be faster or slower and how to have more or less energy. And now we will learn how to change the complete number of them, so we can have more or less of them, type of them, so we decide which zombies in which level go and how much time is between spawn time of these zombies. Okay, finally let's go to tutorial. 4 steps. The first step is check out documentation, read documentation, and although I have talked this a couple of times here already, because this is template, this is something which we have taken from other guys, from people who made this for us, we always have to go back to their explanation and see where is what. In my case, I want to do what? I want to change enemies during enemy waves. So wherever I find here in this documentation, which is called documentation, yeah, so wherever you find waves, enemies, somehow mark that sentence or that word or paragraph and focus on it and see, does it help it? Can you by reading it, can you find where that object or asset or code is here on our asset list in our asset browser, which is in my case on my left side. So read this document, it's not very long, and also, as I have talked before, you can change it, you can add your ideas here, your remarks, your notes, and so on, so don't be afraid to do it. And in my case, I have found that here under how to change important starting variables, there is a sentence which says you can change what the waves look like in OBJ wave level 1. So that is what I need to find. I think OBJ wave level 1. Okay, and other than that object, I need to find what else. Maybe scripts. Yeah, here in scripts I have wave scripts. So this script file contains several scripts and one constructor used for creating and managing waves. Scripts are a collection of code. So when you read here, this script file contains several scripts, that means it has several code lines in it, and one constructor, again, that's a type of code. I'm not going to explain all of it, and don't be afraid even if you don't know all of it. For now we're just going to play a little bit how to change it and see how it works in some simple basic level, but on the long term we will have to learn all of these terms and know how they work in general. They're not specific to this template only, and not only to GameMaker but other game engines also. So I have it here, as I said, in one sentence, here in other, and below, I think here, yeah, here below in objects, OBJ Wave Manager and OBJ Wave Level 1. So OBJ Wave Level 1, that's what I was warned here on how to change important starting variables, but here I also have OBJ Wave Manager as separate objects, so 2 objects so far. And again, this is first step. We are just checking documentation, reading where to find solution for our problem. We're not finding the solution or testing anything yet. We're just trying to find where the possible solution is and where the problem is. In our case, the problem is how to change number of enemies and how to change type of enemies and how to change spawn time of enemies. Paths, I am not interested in it now. Shaders, no. Rooms, no. Sequences, no. Thanks. That's it. Actually, I think enemies. Okay, I'm interested in enemies, and I would probably make error here because I would open those also. But actually, I'm not interested in enemies as specific enemies objects. I will check them anyway, but I'm more interested in waves of enemies. So obj wave level 1, obj wave manager, those two. But anyway, let's just check obj zombie. So I am clicking on folder which is called objects, then folder which is called enemies, then clicking on obj zombie and obj Frankenstein. And already I can see lots of event there: create, destroy, begin step, end step, draw, and so on. So it's already a bit of confusion. By the way, I'm already in step 2, sorry. So the first step was check and find documentation and check what do you need to solve your problem, at least where to start from. And then the second step is check those assets now and their code, what do they have, and that's what I did here, just clicking on obj zombie, obj Frankenstein so far. So enemies folder, let me check obj zombie. So what do I have here? I have I'm checking the code here. I will make it a little bit bigger. Okay, so zombie, obj zombie, it has some kind of variables for hit points, health points, money, which it gives me if I kill him, speed, and that's what we have already changed here in this video here, which says how to change enemy health and speed. Okay, so cool, that's cool, but I don't need that. I need something which will help me with the number of enemies, and there is no any here. Let me check the step event, and as you can already see, this is time consuming and mind consuming, nerve consuming. You will have to know where is what in your code and how to find it fast, how to change it fast, and it can be it can affect you long term in terms of your time, your nerves, your concentration, and so on. So you have to be prepared for it, but that's what coding is about. Anyway, so I'm just checking this as you would, reading fast, maybe a little bit faster than you because I have already done this previously. And okay, but again, it's all about hard work, and which is step by step. Same goes with this guy here, obj Frankenstein. I'm not even going to waste your time because I've already checked this. Nothing here for me, so I'm going to close Frankenstein and close obj zombie. So these two assets were checked, and not anything interesting in those for me. So let me check those two which I told you before: obj wave manager and obj wave level 1. Both of those are in objects folder, managers folder, and just find those two. And not persistent manager, not gameplay, but wave manager, yeah, and wave level 1, yeah. So we have to check those assets. As I said, this is step 2. Let me go first with wave manager. Wave manager, as I can read in documentation, this manager manages the waves. Sounds logical. Wave manager manages the waves. So you should not use this object in a room. Okay, so this is my room. I'm not going to use this object here. It is only going to be here in my folder here, but somehow this obj wave level 1 will read from it. We will see that in a second how, but anyway, this documentation warns me, and I will just make it here. I will change the documentation to make this in a few lines instead of one, so to be more clear. Okay, so obj wave manager. The wave manager manages the waves. Okay, you should not use this object in a room. Okay, I will not. Use a child of it instead. Okay, like obj wave level 1. Okay, great. So instead of using this obj wave manager, I'm going to use this obj wave level 1. This is his child. Wave manager is parent, wave level 1 is child. We will learn that how that works in a second. So this documentation is great. It helped me. I would maybe make the mistake and try to drag and drop wave manager, but this documentation says don't do it. Use the child of it, which is wave level 1. Okay, so anyway, I have to check the code of it because this code is the parent code. Let me see what it has. It has 3 steps: create, step, and alarm, and a lot of code in it. I'm not going to go through all of it, not even through most of it, just a few fast read through because this would take time, and again it's the topic out of this tutorial, and in general we have to make these tutorials not only shorter but smarter, so we will leave this for next time in some next tutorial. But also I'm trying to explain you how some of these tutorials are, even though they look and work fine more or less and look simple from the side, when you dive into them and when you want to use them on some kind of not even higher level but intermediate, they become so complex, and for most of the people, not only beginners but also intermediate users, they're too complex, too confusing, too hard to use and control. That's why I do not recommend most of them, but again, as a learning tool for some point of your learning curve, they can help. Anyway, this guy here, wave manager, it has some kind of variables, and all of those variables are, as you can see, they are commented very well, so you can read next to the variable what that variable does. So for example, the first one, wave running, this variable tells whether the wave is currently running. So this variable wave running by default is false, and that will turn to true only when there are zombies on the screen. So by default there are no zombies here on screen, so it's false. When the first wave starts, this will go from false to true, and we will use this variable to again define when there are zombies on the screen, again to trigger some kind of action or whatever the game is defined with. Waves over, again this variable will be used to tell us if the wave of zombies is completed, all the waves. So that would be like some kind of variable which checks if all the waves are completed and the player is alive, then the player is the winner. and so on. So that could be used for that check, for example. The next one, wave. This variable stores the wave numbers. This is important. It starts with 1, okay, like first level, first wave, then the next will be 2, 3, and so on. It makes sense. Again, that is just a counter, and it's used for, again, in a game for some kind of definition of what enemies. For example, if the wave number is 1, just use the simplest, the weakest zombies. If it's 5, use more advanced, and so on. So by checking this number, we can define some other action connected to it. Next one, wave array. This one is, as you can see, I think array, as it says, this variable stores all the wave struct data. So I think we put enemies in it. Array, I am not sure if we have learned it in GameMaker tutorials so far, but let's say it's like a more complex variable. We have learned what variable is. Variable is some kind of container in which I can put one information. So for example, if I make variable health, I can put number 100 in it, and it will help me to define that my player has a health of 100% or 100 hit points. It doesn't have to be number. I can, for example, make variable player race and put human in it, or orc, elf, and so on. So you can use variables for storing some kind of data, but only one field, and arrays are variables which can store more than one field. So for example, you can have an array for inventory. So array of the first value of inventory would be, for example, sword, the second apple, the third shield, and so on. So it stores more than one value. And in our case, I think we will store zombies in it. Same goes with this current wave struct. Again, that is a type of data structure, I think. Position. This variable stores the index to the current wave struct's array of enemies. It is used to spawn the next enemy. Okay, so that variable position, if I understood well, it stores the position of zombie in struct. And as you can see, then below it we have wave flash alpha variable, which is used to animate the wave numbers. So here, when I start the game, you can see this hand, zombie hand. It will show up on the screen like here. You will check that out soon. When I start the game and start the first wave, it will say wave 1 and show that like animated. And this is variable which we use to check wave number and animate it. Level path. This variable holds the path to use. Okay, this is again very simple and self-explanatory. This path which we have here is path number 1. We have called it like that, and this variable here stores that information. Again, it's dependent on game design. So for example, if I had a couple of different paths to my player, and somehow zombies can pick from different paths. So for example, I could make a code where it says pick randomly from path 1 to 3, then I would probably have to define those here too, like path level 2, path level 3, and so on. And sequence to start wave button for first wave. As you can see, this becomes tricky so fast. So and it is only one object and one event. I'm only in create event here, and you can see how much information here, so you have to be careful, you have to be dedicated, you have to go slow. Step, oh, this is crazy, and I was just reading this here. As you can see here, I will zoom it. I don't even have to go into code. I can just count those in this step event, how many code blocks I have. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 18 of those, so it's almost 20 of code blocks. And as you can see, I can click on those on the left, and it will hop to the code on my right side. Let's check the step code for this wave manager. This manager, okay, first this is how to animate the wave number. We're not interested in it, but in this we are. How to check how big is the length, how big is the array of enemies, the length of it. So by this function, yeah, we haven't learned already what the function is, I think. Function, you can think of function as some kind of, if you have watched the Scratch tutorials which I made, I think it was called block there. So when I have a couple of pieces of block of code in my game and I use them often, then I can group them and make a block of them, and it's called in GameMaker function and other game engines, but in Scratch I think it's called group. So think about it as a group of code. And example for that would be, for example, if I have some kind of enemy, not in this game but in general, some kind of enemy which moves and shoots, I could add code, two pieces of code together, like one piece of code to move, another to shoot, and stick those two together in one function and call that function enemy move and shoot, and then use just that function, calling that one line of code instead of always copy pasting move shoot move shoot. If it has lots of code, I just use one line of code to call it. That's why you use it. It's just more like a reusable thing, something which you reuse a lot, and just to save you of copy pasting code. In this concrete example, I'm checking the length of array of enemies, and I will use that to check. Yeah, I'm using that for very simple check here. As you can see, if variable position is greater or equal, so I'm checking if if the number of enemies comes to the end, I am not going to spawn any. My enemy last was spawned on in my game, so I don't need to spawn them again. But if that number is lower, then the complete length of the array spawn more. So that would be, for example, if I have if I want, for example, 10 enemies on my first level, and I have come to my fifth enemy in a row, I have checked that, okay, then I say spawn one more, then it's 6, then spawn one more 7, okay, spawn one more 8, okay, spawn one more 9, okay, spawn one more 10, and then when I go to that, check if that number is 10 or greater. It is 10, do not spawn anymore. So that is how we check how many we have spawned. It's a simple check, but again, you have to define it, obviously. If instance exists, we check if obj enemy parent exists. Is if it's running. I'm not going to check all of those, it will take too much time, but you would have to do it if you want to make a game using this template. And same goes with alarm. We have learned how to use them. You use them as some kind of time triggered action, so after some time trigger this alarm and then do action in it, do the code in that alarm. And again, here we have the length of the array, check again position and get the next enemy, new enemy. So this alarm is, as much as I can see, used to spawn new enemy. Whole idea here is why I was checking this asset is that although, as we have learned here from documentation, you're not going to use this object in a room. I'm going to check it because this is a parent. This guy here, obj wave manager, is a parent of this guy, obj wave level 1, which we are going to use. And to check if we are going to use it, you can go to your room level 1, click on instances, and as you can see here, I have obj wave level 1. I think, yeah, it's here. Zoom. It's here like question mark. So by unchecking this export box, I can show it or hide it on the screen, but nevertheless this guy here, I'm moving it right now, he's not going to be rendered on the screen because it doesn't have sprite, but it will run the code which we have in it. So again, I have opened this room level 1 only to show you that we already have obj wave level 1 in it. Why? Because these guys who made these tutorials already done it for us. Okay, so let's see now what that object obj wave level 1 has in itself. It has 3 events: create, step, and alarm. And as you can see, and if you zoom this event, whatever this is, you can see here I have some kind of like image of 3 circles together, and when I go over it, I see it's connected to obj wave manager, which we have seen here. This is the guy, obj wave manager, and if I right click of one of those, I can see I have option to open parent event, inherit event, and override event. Again, that's a topic of another tutorial and video, but in short, this guy here, think about it, obj wave manager as a parent in real world, father or mother, and he gives some kind of inheritance to his son, which is obj wave level 1, and this guy here, son, he can use that inheritance like, okay, I'm going to take everything from you, father, everything you give me, every kind of wealth, money or house or whatever you want to give, or knowledge, yeah, to me. But if I want to put something mine in it, some kind of mine personal original work, I will have to right click and say override event. That's a very simple explanation for it. And you use that when? You use that, for example, we saw that, I think, for enemies. Yeah, it's a good example. Yeah, I will click again. So I will click on obj enemy parent and then on obj zombie. And you can see here that when I zoom on obj zombie, you can see here that there is a button which says parent. And you can close it here and open it by clicking here parent. It will open and it says parent of this zombie is obj enemy parent. And same goes for Frankenstein. Parent of Frankenstein is same obj enemy parent. So there is one parent for all enemies. Why is that so? That is easier workflow when you have lots of enemies and you want to define basic actions for all of them. Like all of them will move, all of them will have health, hit points, all of them will have some kind of attack or weapon and so on. So you can define like a blueprint for it, a parent for it, and then and in that parent you say health, attack, movement, and define those parameters, and then change those parameters in kids. So for example, kid Frankenstein will have more health points than kid simple zombie, but both simple zombie and Frankenstein, they both have health points, and those are defined in parent. And same for other features. So that's why you use parents and kids in game development, and you don't use it only for enemies. Just as I said, you can use it for, as we just saw, waves. And again, we here only have one kid, which is obj wave level 1. That is because we have only one level in this game. That is how GameMaker creators created for us and for this template. But for example, if you wanted to have more levels like level 2, level 3 and so on, you can create new kids for this wave manager parent, and here you can see his children. So far only obj wave level 1, but in future we could add more. Yeah, the time is flying. This is crazy. Anyway, we have checked wave manager, and now let's check wave level 1 finally. I think this will go faster from here. Again, crazy. You can see how many in one event, in create event, I have so many code here. I have to read all of those, to check all of those, to learn all of those, to test all of those, how they work, what to change, so on. And this is only create. Let me go to step. Oops, step is even crazier. Look at this. And this is only one object. Create event, step event, alarm 0. Yeah, good luck. So but we have to do it. Yeah, you asked for it, so I'm going to open obj wave level 1 create event and check what is in it. And you can see the first piece of code says, call parent event. So that is like I'm calling the father of this object, and that is wave manager, and I'm taking all of this code from it, but I'm also adding some of my own. Let's see what are those. You can see how much of those, and how easy it is to make something break here, to change something and break it. So the first one is level path, use level path level 1. Okay, that was defined in parent, I think. Yeah, here, level path. So this isn't changed. I have no idea why it's here again, but never mind. Let's go next. Okay, so I already see something which is interesting, and I think it will help us change something. Function call array create. We are calling some kind of function here which is called array create. Calling it means using it. We have learned that function is like a block of code. When we have more complex code and don't want to type it every time because it will take time and maybe we will make error, we can just put that code into block, call it by some kind of name function, and when you say call this function later, it will run all the code in it. It can have like a, I don't know, 100, 1000, as many blocks of code as you want. So instead of typing 1000 code blocks here, I just type call function call. And I'm calling this function, but I'm not sure where that function is defined. Defining the function is called declaring the function, I think, also here in GameMaker and some of other game engines. So I'm not sure again what this function works, but let me check how I'm going to call it. I need some kind of argument 5. I think that's the number of zombies, and I'm putting some other argument which is obj zombies. Okay, I have made enemy array. I have made complex array, and complex variable which is array. I have called it enemy array. I want to put 5 obj zombie enemies in it. So this is what this function will help me to do it. This function, this variable, here later, assign variable, says obj Frankenstein, okay, and I'm reading the comment here, go through that new array. Okay, we have made the new array here, and now this blue code goes through that array and replace some zombies with Frankensteins if you want to. Okay, great. So we have created 5 zombies on the screen for the first level, and some of those zombies, instead of simple weak green zombies, will be replaced with big Frankenstein zombie. Okay, that's what we need. Later I have some kind of struct. Again, I am not going to confuse you anymore, don't worry, so many information here. I'm reading the comment, and the comment says the second argument. Okay, I'm just reading here this. The first argument is enemy array, the second argument, okay, the second argument says roam speed. That argument is the delay between each enemy spawning. Okay, so we have found another problem, another solution for another problem. Great, so already 2 or 3 problems solved. So in these 2 or 3 blocks of code, I think I can do whatever we need to change the number of enemies, the type of enemies, and the spawn time. So with these 3 blocks, I can do whatever we need to do in this tutorial. And all of this later, I don't need it, but just for now, you can see how many of blocks here. And again, some of those look same as one of both. Struct enemy array roam speed. It's same as this here. Okay, and same as this here. So I think this whole piece of code is just spawning enemy zombies wave by wave. Not 100% sure, but I think it does like that. From top to bottom, it reads from top to bottom, like it starts with the first one, second, third, and so on. It reads like this, and so on. So it goes from top to bottom, but it doesn't make much sense for me to to make it this way. Yeah, I'm not sure why they did it this way. Maybe I'm wrong, but again, that's what I was talking about earlier. Sometimes you will be confused why some of the code is why some code is like that, why they code it that way and not something simpler or divided in a couple of other pieces or steps. It's just it's just the way how things work when you use other people's code and templates, and that's why most of the people avoid using templates. It's just sometimes it's better to start from scratch and easier for you. Code like this can be helpful. Yeah, look at this is crazy. Can be helpful for learning, but on a long term it can confuse you and make you just abandon the whole project and process. So in my case, I think I have found the solution, but this was all the step 2. The step 2 was check assets, check code, and I have just finished it right now. This was like, and I think I was lucky, to be honest, here just to find it right away. In most of the cases I would probably need more time and I would have to check all of those, read those. So yeah, it sounds funny, but actually I think I was lucky. So the first step, we have found the problem and located it here in documentation. The second step was opening those assets and checking those assets, what they have from the code and what that code works in terms of what do we think it works, reading it and locating again, now more precise what do we need to check. And now the third step would be testing the code. So we need to test all of this here in terms of what to change, how it works and so on. So in my case, here in obj wave level 1 in create event, so not step, not alarm, but create, I have found 3 pieces, 3 blocks of code, and I will try to isolate them in my game when I test it now and see if this is what I think it is. In my case, again, I'm interested in this one, function call, and this first argument which says 5. I think that's the number of zombies. So I'm testing the code now to check if the zombies number on the first level would be 5, and are those zombies will be this simple, this guy on the left, obj zombie, and maybe one of those would be Frankenstein. I think that is a sign variable. How fast they go, that is in new struct argument room speed times 3, and that's it. So I'm going to start my game now. This is the process of testing the code. Someone else coded for us, and first of all, the game itself, it doesn't have a wave starting by default, and that's maybe good for some of you, maybe not. For most of the tower defense game, I think it starts after like 10 or 15 seconds. It gives you so much time to point your towers on the ground, to put them on the ground and start. But this one would actually stay like this forever. So if I don't click on this start button, it will not start itself. So I can add one tower here, click on the start now, and what do I want to check? I want to count the number of zombies, the type of zombies, and how fast they go. So 1 green zombie, 2 green zombies, 3, 4, so one more. And yeah, the one more is, and the last one is the big guy. So 5 zombies, and one of those is Frankenstein. Okay, so 5 zombies. So we know here that now this number defines the number of zombies for the first wave. So it's in OBJ wave level 1, and again that was testing the code. I have tested it, and now this is the next step, step number 4. It's going to be editing the code. I'm going to change, to make the edit, to make the changes, and then again test again to see how those changes work. So step number 3, test the code, and step number 4, edit the code. They go in cycles. Test it, change it, test it again to see how it works, and so on in cycle until you are satisfied. In my case, I'm going just to change this function call, which is in create event 1, 2, 3, third from the top, and type 15 instead of 5, and press play. So now I should have 15 zombies on the screen. I think so. And they are very, very fast because we have changed the speed earlier in our videos. Maybe your will not work go so fast. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 11, 12, 3 more, 14, 15, yeah. Great. So we have learned that how to change the number of enemies, and it's in this function call, and that is for the first wave. For other waves, I think you should go here, and the second wave is here, probably it says 10, and the third one is probably here, yeah, 20. So first argument in function call array create is actually the number of enemies. Changing that number will change the number of zombies on the screen. So in my case I will put this back, or maybe not, yeah, put this back to 5. So we have learned how to change the number of enemies. Now let's try to change the type. If I counted well, every time the 5th enemy is Frankenstein. So this guy here, assign variable, is going to replace some zombies with Frankensteins. Okay, how it's going to replace it? It puts this object, obj Frankenstein, on this position, enemy array 4. We have seen that enemy array is defined here above with function call, and we have learned before that this array holds 5 of these simple green thin obj zombies. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and this guy here, Frankenstein, he pops up as 4th here. But the problem here is that arrays start counting from 0. So it's not 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So If you count 0 as first element and go 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, then the fourth element is actually 5th in a row. So you go from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 instead of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's a little bit strange and maybe sounds dumb, but it's just how computers work in general. They start counting from 0. So don't this confuse you. This guy here is at 5th place, but the number here 4 is because the counting starts from 0. First of all, I will try to disable it just to check. Sorry for a second. Okay, so continuing with tutorial. Anyway, so this assign variable, as I have just said, this number 4 means that Frankenstein will start as the 5th enemy in first wave. So if I want him to start as a first enemy, I would probably type here instead of 4 1, but because this is array and array starts counting from 0, I have to type 0 instead. And let me check this with place. So now the first enemy should be Frankenstein. Testing the code. Oops, it doesn't work. It actually works, but he is so slow that the green zombie just ran over him. So this works, but again it's depending on the speed of the zombie, which we will change next. Also, I want to test one more thing. If I disable this assign variable by clicking it on with left mouse button to select it, then right mouse button click disable, now we should have only 5 zombies. Frankenstein is disabled, so no Frankensteins in first wave. No Frankenstein, simple as that. So we have learned how to change the type of the enemies. First, the number of enemies by changing this argument here, then the type by changing this variable here. And for the last problem we have to solve, and that is the spawn time. It's in the third block here, which says new struct, and you can read the comment. Delay between each enemy spawning is the second argument. The first one is enemy array and the second one is spawn time. So instead of roam speed times 3, I will select this, right click, cut, just to move it away. And now I want to type some kind of number which will represent the seconds. If I type 1, it will not be 1 second because GameMaker counts seconds in frames. So 1 second is 30 frames. So I need to type 30 to spawn zombies every second. Let's test it. This will probably be too fast because they are really running fast, and if I spawn them every second it will be very fast, but let's try it anyway. Yeah, you see, it's almost, but it makes sense maybe for yeah. It's almost impossible to win the first level like this. Let's try like 5 seconds. That would be 150 frames. So spawn time will be 150 frames or 5 seconds. Let me try that. Oops. No, it's two again. Yeah, even faster. I have to go. Yeah, it's faster. It makes sense, but I have to go like one. I think something like this. I'm not sure what the room speed is, but anyway, this argument is yeah, to make it slower, it's obviously this is too slow now. No zombies. Anyway, this is like too slow, but you just find whatever it's working for you. I hope this helps. We actually, I think we solved all of the three of problems we had. Number of zombies here, type of the zombies here, and spawn time. So for example, if I want to have only one zombie, I will change argument to 1 and enemy array of Frankenstein to 0, and I think now I would have only Frankenstein as my only enemy on the screen. Yeah. So you see how it works. You can tweak those numbers to define whatever you want for your game. So this can be, for example, some kind of boss level, and I could I'll put this back to 4 and 5, and I could probably raise the health of this Frankenstein to make him a boss. That was 1 hour, yeah, crazy. But I hope we have learned a couple of things. How to start from checking the documentation to find where your problem is and where to try to find the solution, then to open those assets and check the code of it, then test the code, and then edit the code to make the changes, test it again to see those changes. If that works for you, cool. If it's not, go back to edit, go back to test, go back to edit, go back to test, and that's it. That's how it works most of the time. The biggest problem here is the code here, checking it, understanding it, reading it. It takes time, it takes knowledge. You need to know what the functions are, what the structs are, what the variables are in general, then in specific how these guys here use them for their template, for their game, for their code. And then if you're good enough, think about it. Is this what I need? Is this what I need at all? Maybe I can do this much simpler, much faster, and so on. but in our case we have to go at least for some time like this, more and more, until we cover a couple of other things which I think I have mentioned here on my community tab in Towers vs Monsters to-do list, and we will go step by step and make videos about these topics here. Until then, thanks for watching, see you in next video, bye for now.